Meet surging content demands without compromising your business or your brand. With Adobe Express.
What is up, everybody?
The biggest game releases of July 2025.
July is here, and that means hot dogs sizzling on the grill, regular dogs trembling under the bed because of the fireworks, and a whole bunch of new video games to keep you entertained when it's too hot to do anything but sit perfectly still. Here are July 2025's biggest game releases. Before we get started, the usual disclaimer that we do our best to make these videos as accurate and informative as possible, but release dates have the tendency to change, whether that's getting suddenly announced or pushed to a later date at the very last minute. Either way, always check your local listings for the most up-to-date information. Also, speaking of local listings, I know I sprinkle in a bunch of seasonal cliches about summertime hot dogs and American holidays that don't necessarily apply to the southern hemisphere where it's currently winter, but work with me here. You guys get to have pool parties at Christmas time and we don't. On July 1st, you can make a name for yourself in Mecha Break, the free-to-play multiplayer shooter that's definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of Gundam, Evangelion, or similar anime fare with the big metal robot suits. Something I very much appreciate about this game is the first thing you do is make a human avatar who you're then playing as while they control a giant robot suit. You're still, controlling a mech directly, but Mecha Break makes a concerted effort to remind you that there's a person in there, so if your mech gets its ass kicked, you see the pilot getting knocked around like they just got in a car accident. It's something that's often overlooked in other mecha games despite being a crucial part of that genre of anime, but also if you don't care about any of that, you can also just make a cool looking robot and focus on making the lasers go pew 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 with the other team. Either way, make like Shinji and get in the fucking robot on PC, Xbox Series, and PS5, and if you win, congratulations! If you'd rather enjoy a nice laid-back slice of life in the countryside, you are probably better off with Harvest Moon, Lost Valley, and Skytree Village. This collects two 3DS entries in the OG Cozy Game series, originally published in 2014 and 2016, polishes them up, and throws them on Nintendo Switch with all of the DLC. On July 7th, if you'd rather do some grueling labor in a different kind of field, there is EA Sports College Football 26, which, if you haven't been keeping track, is the store brand spiritual successor to the old NCAA college football games. Though, considering that last year's installment was the second best-selling game of the year in the United States, I'm guessing that anybody who gives a hoot is well aware of that. That's on Xbox Series and PS5. On the 10th, a few interesting-looking games drop on PC. There's Every Day We Fight, which mixes real-time exploration with turn-based combat with a roguelike time loop, which seems kind of like a scrappier XCOM by way of Live, Die, Repeat, or Edge of Tomorrow, or whatever the hell that Tom Cruise robot suit movie is called. If you would prefer to shoot mushrooms in space than spacemen on Earth, there's also Mycopunk, a mission-based co-op shooter where you and three friends are robots tasked with eradicating a fungal menace. Sounds like fun, guys. Also on PC is Everdeep Aurora, which at a glance looks like Dig Dug or maybe SteamWorld Dig, but you play as a cat, and on closer inspection, I think there's a lot more going on. It seems to focus on exploration and puzzles and maybe some platforming, but from what I've seen, I'm not sure there's any combat. That's supposed to hit Switch at some point too, but I do not see a date listed anywhere, but keep an eye on that.
So today's the day. I've got my RTA Mach system and Coyote appliances.
That one. Also that day is Islanders New Shores, the follow-up to the 2019 Minimalist City Builder, which was received very well back when it first came out. This one seems like a nice, pleasant, laid-back alternative to the more bureaucratic Sims of a similar nature. That's on PC, plus Xbox Series, PS5, and Switch. On July 11th, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 7 hits all of the consoles and PC. Wait, hold on a second. That's not Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 7. That's Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4. Somebody did the math for me. In any case, that's got overhauled versions of the originals, plus some new content, like a whole pinball machine-themed level, and you can play as Michelangelo, the Ninja Turtle, and also Doom Guy, riding his chainsaw like a skateboard, which is hella sick. Any 90s kid who doesn't feel something from that series of words should be declared legally dead. Speaking of 90s kids, if you grew up making crazy contraptions in The Incredible Machine, check out Kaizen, a factory story. It's a gorgeous open-ended automation game which has you managing a Japanese factory in the 1980s and building camcorders and toy robots and other bubble-era stuff like that. That hits PC July 14th. On the 15th, Destiny 2 gets its 13th expansion with the Edge of Fate, which is supposedly... On the 15th, Destiny 2 gets its 13th expansion with the Edge of Fate, which is supposedly kicking off a new trilogy of events. So I guess this one is a better jumping on point for new players than the last one was, which was like the final shape, I think. If you already played Destiny,
this game lost me, man.
On point for new players than the last one was, which was like the final shape, I think.
I mean, got Raid, Nightfall, Trials, Strike, PvP. You know what I mean? Gotta get the full experience.
If you already play Destiny, you probably know all about this, and if you don't play Destiny, I can't tell you any more about Destiny than you probably already know yourself. That's on everything that Destiny 2 is already on. Some would say that another word for summer evenings is it's on everything that Destiny 2 is already on. Some would say that another word for summer evenings is Neverwinter Nights. If you'd like to spend your Neverwinter Nights revisiting the second installment of BioWare's beloved Dungeons & Dragons RPG series, you are in luck because an enhanced edition is coming to PS5, Xbox Series, Switch, and PC on July 15th. Meanwhile, Eden Zero, the manga-turned-anime from the creator of Fairy Tales and Rave Master, is also being turned into a game, which is coming to PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. And if you're skeptical of a licensed anime game, there is a demo to check out, and your progress even carries over if you decide to buy the full thing. Isn't that considerate? I love when they do that. Finally, on the 15th, the game that caught my eye is Eric's Home: The Stolen Dream, which is a gorgeous isometric narrative stealth game where you play as a young girl trying to find her missing brother. I guess Eric's isometric narrative stealth game where you play as a young girl trying to find her missing brother. I guess Eric's not home, if you know what I'm saying. That's got some gorgeous environments, and I'm a sucker for anything that looks like little dioramas, so count me in. That one's on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series. If you flock to the indie hit Cult of the Lamb, you may want to keep an eye on Worship, which is a multiplayer Pikmin-inspired roguelite that'll have you acting as a cult leader and amassing followers to do your bidding. Pour yourself a tall glass of ice-cold Flavorade and check that one out on PC on the 16th. On July 17th, the Switch 2 gets its second major exclusive with Donkey Kong Bonanza, which looks like Super Mario.
Is Super Mario the new? Is this Mario Kart? The new Mario Kart only on Switch 2? I wonder.
Mario Odyssey by way of Hulk.
Yeah, I want to try. Mario. Art. World. Platforms. Only on the Switch too. Fucked, huh? Oh, that's
Hulk Ultimate Destruction, starring the one and only DK. Actually, there are several other DKs. There's Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. and Denmark and the Dead Kennedys, and there's Dorling Kindersley. They made those cool eyewitness books you probably read in elementary school.
Kindersley?
Dorling Kindersley.
The Dorling Kindersley. Big book of knowledge. Discover your world through pictures and words.
They made those cool eyewitness books you probably read in elementary school that had the little detailed pictures. Anyway, I digress. None of those things are in here, but Donkey Kong is, and he's gonna smash a bunch of stuff in search of those succulent bananas, which sounds like a good time. If you prefer unfinished business to monkey business, there's plenty of that in RoboCop Rogue City Unfinished Business. That's a standalone DLC expansion to the surprisingly solid single-player FPS. Unfinished Business will have you shooting your way up the many floors of a skyscraper, which is basically the movie Dread, which is pretty much the Raid, which is already essentially a movie equivalent of a video game where you ascend a bunch of levels killing bad guys, which is exactly what Robo is doing here, so it's all gone full circle and it sounds great. That's on Xbox Series, PS5, and PC, and you don't need the base game to play it, but you should play that anyway because it rips. If you prefer your cyberpunk futures a little more vibrant and a little less grisly, Neon Abyss 2 hits Steam Early Access that day as well, which adds 4-player co-op for some brightly colored chaos. Finally, on the 17th, The Wandering Village meanders onto Switch. That is a city builder that takes place entirely on the back of a giant creature, and that was received pretty well when it hit PC back in 2022. If you ever wanted a gritty side-scrolling spin on Pac-Man, well, apparently somebody else did too. And they worked at Bandai Namco, and they made that game, and that game is called Shadow Labyrinth. You play as Swordsman number 8, forced to do the bidding of a mysterious floating yellow orb known as Puck, which sounds like a Pac-Man fever dream. That's on PC, PS5, Xbox Series, and both the Switches on July 18th. For me, nothing will ever top the gritty Pac-Man from that one Bloodhound Gang music video, though. If you've ever wanted to karate kick your way through hell, well, you're never gonna guess what the 3D platformer Kickin' Hell is all about. That one's on PC on the 21st. On July 22nd, Mysk, A Tiny Tale hits Switch and PC. This is a 3D platformer about a couple very small robots, and it certainly looks like it'll click for anybody who wishes that Nintendo would consider releasing Chibi Robo games more than once a decade. Also hitting PC on the 22nd is Monument Valley 3, the stylized isometric puzzle game which was an Apple Arcade exclusive for a cool minute. Still that day on PC, plus Xbox Series and PS5 is Wildgate, a colorful multiplayer PvP game that blends ship-to-ship combat and has no shortage of fun aliens and creatures. On July 22nd, Eat the Rich hits early access on Steam, which is a multiplayer game for 6 to 10 people that involves mini-games, but also social deception, and may or may not involve actually eating billionaires, but you'll have to play it with 5 to 10 of your friends to find out for sure. If you'd rather ride a bike, you can do lots of that in Wheel World, a gorgeous indie game about bicycle racing that also incorporates some supernatural elements.
How is Wheeled World not on the PC? That's a fucking tongue twister. Wheel World.
Just ancient cycling spirits, which I didn't know were a thing. Sure, why not? That's on PS5, Xbox Series, and
Wheeled
PC.
World needs to be on
Assuming that
Switch.
any of your friends and family are still speaking to you after whatever events transpired when Mario
Party Jamboree.
Party Jam.
The Switch 2 Edition plus Jamboree TV.
Relaunched back in October, why not invite them over to burn the rest of your bridges and thoroughly immolate any other metaphorical interpersonal thoroughfares that are left in Mario Party Jamboree Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Jamboree TV, which yes is the full official title, and if you don't say the full thing out loud, Nintendo will be cross with you. This looks to be doing some cool new stuff with those updated Joy-Con, and if you got that camera, you can play online and look your loved ones dead in the eye when you say that you're never speaking to them again after they beat you, even though you actually won the game. Mario Party. It makes people get in fights. That should be the slogan. Mario Party. Let's get in an argument. I don't actually hate Mario Party that much. I just like to really hammer that stuff home because Logan, who proofreads these scripts, he does like it, so it's just funny to get him. He's like, what? Who hurt you? What's wrong with you? I'll tell you what hurt me is the Nintendo 64 joystick. If you've ever thought to yourself, I am so tired of all of these Souls-like games about female pirates in the Ming Dynasty, well, here comes another one. Wu Chang Fallen Feathers is exactly what I described, having you take on the role of Bai Wu Chang. Interesting twist here, though, is if you repeatedly die or kill too many human characters, you start to develop madness, and once it sets in, places where you die will be haunted by your inner demon who looks exactly like Bai Wu Chang and will try to kick your ass for being bad at the game. That one's on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Still out day on PC is Total Chaos, which is an extremely gnarly looking survival horror game where you must, well, survive a bunch of horrors, obviously. Expect scavenging, crafting weapons, and maybe some creepy walkie-talkie conversations. On July 25th, you can stay up all night playing No Sleep for Kaname Date from AI The Somnium Files, a long-windedly titled puzzle adventure game that involves teen idols, alien abductions, and perhaps a mysterious coffin. That's on both the Switches and the PC. If you're wishing there was a new Twisted Metal game to go along with that live-action Peacock show, take a whiff of Fumes, a wonderfully titled low-poly throwback car combat game which hits PC on the 28th. Oh, and speaking of that Twisted Metal Peacock show, Season 2 premieres on July 31st. That's not a video game, but it's about...
I paid for my own college, so I knew I'd have to start accumulating a lot of money, paying student loans, paying rent. There wasn't much.
On July 29th, Obsidian's Honey, I Shrunk the Survival game Grounded gets a semi-surprise sequel which was only revealed a few weeks ago. I don't know how we didn't see that one coming, probably because it was so small. This one generally builds on the foundations of the first game, but also adds some new features, including the much requested addition of mounts. So now you can ride around on a big ant, feed it some Little Debbie product placement as a reward for carrying you everywhere, and then ugly cry when it gets killed trying to defend you from a big scorpion. Okay, that's all from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, but conceivably it can also happen in the video game. That one's on Xbox Series and PC. Another game involving little people doing yard work is Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game, which is one of those games that I've mentioned I don't know how many times in these videos, but in case you missed it, it's basically Animal Crossing, but with hobbits. And if it actually comes out, it'll come out for PC, PS5, Xbox Series, and Switch. Finally, on the 31st, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound comes to everything, which is a brand new installment in Koei Tecmo's beloved series about doing flips, stabbing dudes, and then getting killed by birds. This one's in good hands. It's being developed by the team behind Blasphemous, and it's being published by Dotemu, who gave us TMNT's Shredder's Revenge. That's coming to everything, and I already said that part because I'm tired. Oh, and hey, real quick while I've still got you, I would like to shout out what's going on over at IGN's sister site, Humble. Every month, Humble Choice subscribers get a hand-picked mix of awesome PC games. This month's lineup is awesome. It's got Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1 and 2, Nobody Wants to Die, Dungeons of Hinterberg, and Chia. Plus, your Humble Choice membership gets you up to 20% off in the Humble store, including big new releases, like some of the games I listed in this very video. And of course, 5% of your membership goes to charity every single month. You get all of that for just $11.99 a month, which you can cancel anytime if the games aren't really grabbing you. But get this, if you've never subscribed before, you can get your first month for just $7 by using the code JUNE25. If you love discovering great games and doing a little bit of good while you're at it, check out Humble Choice today. And there you go, July 2025's biggest game releases. If you want a more up-to-the-minute way of tracking the games you care about, go give IGN Playlist a shot. It's like Goodreads or Letterboxd or WikiFeet, but it's for video games. Head to playlist.ign.com or download the app using the QR code on the screen. Is there a QR code? If there is, it's because of the people who helped make this video, and a big huge thank you to them. As always, huge thank you to everybody who makes this video possible: Amanda Medina, Chris Del Padre, and Logan Plant, and a huge thank you to everybody who took the time to watch. Sound off in the comments below with what you're playing, what you want to play, what you don't want to play, what you've never played, and what you are considering playing, but maybe you aren't going to play it. I don't know. Just say what's up, and we'll see you next month. Thanks for watching. Have a great July. Bye, everybody.
Hello everyone, this is your daily dose of internet. If you ever feel dumb, just remember that.
Whoa, buddy.
Hello